Hey, this is Pastor Rick. Glad you're with me today. We are here to talk about, guess what, people? We're here to talk about this book, Die with Zero, from Bill Perkins. And we also have a guest tonight, so don't leave me. We got Curtis Wright, who's a professional, for real, bona fide financial counselor, has all the credentials. And if you want to know something about money and finance tonight, stay around. He got great questions he can answer for you tonight. This is a really talented man. I have done a lot of work with his wife, who is Courtney Wright. She's an amazing person, but I like this guy. He's amazing. He's amazing. He's humble, hungry, and smart. All that good stuff. But let me just say, I got my good friend, Mrs. Sheila Bishop. Hey, Sheila, are you there?
Hello, Pastor Rick.
Yeah,
Hello, Pastor Rick.
Hey, she's my partner in crime. She does really well. She's our church administrator, by the way, but she's also a registered nurse, and she's also a wonderfully trained person who understands home health care and all other great stuff. And so, and she's our missionary person. She goes overseas. I told her I like to keep her around so she can go someplace and save somebody. She's amazing. But having said all that good stuff, I want to ask you a question. Sheila, did you read this book, Die Zero?
I did.
Before we bring
I did. I did read it. And honestly, it was, I did have a couple of chapters that I didn't finish. Just to make a disclaimer there. But
okay.
I was really surprised with his just approach, that whole concept. You know, we had a lot of conversation on the front end about Die with Zero. And you do have to.
My wife hates the title. Let's be clear. Diane does not like the title of the book. Go ahead.
I have nothing to say with Miss Temple. That's my good friend too. Getting all you can from your money and your life. Now, he put a lot of emphasis on life experiences. And that was really, really interesting to me because and I think in some ways he said that your life is just really an accumulation of all your experiences. And to me, that was still created a little bit of tension with the idea of, okay, die with zero. And, you know, all of your life experiences influence you. And how many times have we seen people that retire or work their whole life or just whatever it is that you want to fill in and just can't even, you know, just trying to figure it out. So it's like, no, you know, you got to live more than just for experiences. So I was really anxious to really hear what you had to say about that concept, and not to get too far ahead, because I don't want to bring Curtis on, is he does have some nice balance in the book. Yeah. So it is a great surprise. And
I think it's great. When Curtis Wright comes in a minute, he's going to come in. He's, like I said, a professional financial advisor, the real deal, with all the credentials that verify that. But let me say this real quick. This might be a little something you might be interested in. The guy who wrote the book, Bill Perkins, he built a fortune as an energy trader and hedge fund manager, often called the natural gas king or cowboy on Wall Street. So this is a guy that matters Skylar Capital, $500 million. This is not a broke guy. So he's not saying, because he surely is not at zero, but I think that if you put the book back up again, Brian, let me show you something. And hey, Brian in the background, he's such a great guy. Brian and Brandon, we got two guys back there. They're amazing. Getting all you can from your money and your life. So you notice, read the in between the lines. That's what he's talking about. How you don't just live to live, but there's got some other stuff. So let's highlight a couple of things that I thought were just fascinating. You can take it down now, Brian. Let me show you a couple of things I thought were just fascinating. First of all, he talks about maximizing your life experience. That's one of the big parts, right? He talks about balancing savings and spending, and how it's important to learn how to balance those things out. You save, but you also live. He talks about time bucket. I love this part. Time bucket your life, right? 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Because what he says is you won't be able to do everything you did in your 20s when you're in your 70s. in terms of physical ability, climbing stairs, going on certain trips because of the wear and the tear and the physical demands. So sometimes you should do those things early so that you don't have that pressure to try to do it when you're older. So he talks about retirement. He talks about invest in experiences over things. I kind of like the sound of that, but I understand the balance and you got to be careful and all that good stuff. He said, die with zero, not because you waste money, but because you use it. You use the money, which is one of those things I struggle with, balancing sometimes, because I realize the importance of saving, and I'm a big believer in that, but I also believe that you should live life. So he talks about memory dividends, not just cash dividends.
Yes.
Memory dividends. I thought that was a great concept, We all like dividends, but memory dividends are great. My kids have no money dividend memories. They're always focused on where I took them, and they're more. They should talk about the rent. I always talk about that. They should talk about tuition. They should talk about the cars I bought, but they don't. They only talk about where I took them. Interesting.
I thought it was fascinating that he said too, and he kind of referred to people in general that just kind of make that comment. What about the kids? And he builds this great argument of, why don't you give the kids the money while you can see them enjoy it, or it can make a difference in their life, as opposed to have them struggle and you amass all of this money. And then when you die, you give them, I think the one lady, $130,000. And she's like, man, this is nice at 68, but I really could have used this at, 38.
He said, give your money to when they're poor, help them when they're poor. My friend in Israel said that to me once. He said, why do you Americans give people money when you die? Why don't you give it to them when they need a house or a car and they're trying to get started?
Because we don't know how long we're going to live, and we may need it. And then he tells you to take this mortality test. I did not do it. It was kind of like, oh, no, I can't wrap my head around that.
I've done it.
No.
Oh, I did.
You did?
I did it. Of course I did it. Absolutely. I want to know what they think. I'll break the record, but I want to know. So I love that. Create a portfolio. Think of money as a tool for life, not a trophy. I thought that was great. A tool for life, not a trophy. Leave a legacy of memories, not just money. Legacy of memories. So I think it's great, and I just think it's wonderful. I want to bring my friend in now. His name is Curtis Wright, and I want you guys to meet him. Hey, Mr. Wright, how are you, sir?
Good evening, everyone. So thanks for letting me be part of your podcast tonight. So appreciate it.
We are big fans of your town, Atlanta, and your family. I won't go into more detail. I just think you guys are great. But you have, I referred somebody to you some time ago. Then you did a really, really good job with them and their finances. I was really impressed. And so tell them a little bit about yourself. Help me understand who you are so the audience can know who you are. And there are hundreds of people watching, by the way. So tell them who you are.
I'm a certified financial planner, as you know, Dr. Temple, and part of the things that I do is help people with investment planning, retirement planning, and in addition to that, a husband to my wife, Courtney, 34 years. She's decided to keep me around, so I have a renewable annual contract here. But so far, I've gotten 34 out of it. There's 4 kids, all grown, and then 9 grandkids there. And then one of the other things, I'm a deacon at our church here in Atlanta. And so I look at what I do as not just a profession, but a ministry. And your book is a very interesting piece, because one of the things I tell clients as I sit down with them, if we plan this just right, you are taking your last breath as you spend your last dollar. Now, that does not mean that you are broke. It just means that you did all of the things that the two of you have been talking about and that's leave money, a legacy, leave money to the kids, to the church, whatever it happens to be. But the goal of money is to do things that you want to do. And the new definition of retirement is not age 62 or 65. It's getting to a point in life where you can decide to do what you want to do each day when you wake up in the morning. And that's what I try to help people do. And unfortunately, the baby boomers, which I am part of, that group, we tend to do a good job of saving. We do a lousy job of spending later. So, and
Wow.
you mentioned it'll be a point in life where you cannot be able to do things. The industry has 3 phases. The go-go years, those are years your health are there and you can do all kinds of things. There's the slow-go years. And for most of us, that hits about 50, 60. We still want to do, we just can't do as much. And we'll all hit a point called the no-go years. So with that, Dr. Temple, I will take a breather there after. I know that was supposed to be 30 seconds, not 30 minutes.
No, you did good. And let me say this, guys, those of you that are watching, what you can do is get ready to, if you want to, you can type in the chat there your questions, and the staff is waiting. They'll be able to pull up your questions in just a few minutes, and we'll be able to ask our dear brother anything you might want to ask, and we'll be happy to ask your questions for you. But let me say this: he talks about the go, slow go, and all that. Those are part of the conversation. But let me ask this: you said spend your last dollar when you say that one more time. Spend your last dollar.
So if you do this right, you're planning. You're spending your last dollar as you're taking your last breath. So meaning that you did all of the things we just talked about. You've enjoyed life to the fullest, whatever that fullest means. But so many people worry about, will they have the money? And I tell them the money is gonna be here after you're gone. And as my neighbor across the street says, he's never seen a Brinks truck going to the cemetery behind the hearse. So that shows you your money gets to stay here. It's not going to go with you. So
you're a big believer then in giving money to your children and kids and funding all of that while you're alive, giving it to your church, giving it to the charities while you're alive. And so you're saying by the time you breathe your last breath, you've already passed all the money out.
You passed the money that you planned on passing out by that point, right? Correct. So that you you mentioned something earlier, and you were talking about memories. Some of the best memories I had growing up was when me and my dad went out on Saturday morning to play golf together. Now, I know he provided food and all those other things, but those is the memories that I remember the most. And prior to this, I've been a financial planner for right at 24 years. And prior to that, I was in the corporate world. And one of the gentlemen that I worked with, he said, there's never been a man or a woman on their deathbed that says, I wish I'd have put in another day at work. They always wish they had done something some memory. So
now do you deal with insurance? Do you deal with what kind of?
So primarily like the whole concept of financial planning, there's really 6 components of it. And a lot of people only focus on the investments or the retirement. There's the insurance, as you mentioned, that's the protection piece. There's the legal piece, making sure wills, trusts, so that your final wishes are carried forward. There's also the piece of the legal, the financial piece, your taxes, those type of things is part of that concept too. And then protection is, and what I do is I sit down with people and help them not only grow their money, but protect it. Because unfortunately, the one thing that none of us know is when that last day will come. And sometimes it comes a little earlier for some versus others. So
I think what's interesting is when you talk about, you're kind of stretching the brain here a little bit because you're right. A lot of people make money but don't protect it, and then it ends up, and if they're not careful, when you die, it gets eaten up in taxes.
That's right.
And so before we go there, though, let me ask this question. So let's start with what you think are some of the biggest mistakes that people make when it comes to money. So when you sit down with a new client, what are the things you want to kind of first do with them, to help them not make, well, what are the big mistakes they make? And then let's talk about what are some of the first steps you take with a new client.
Right. So financial planning is a process. And that process, what I do, if anybody is sitting with me, if they're 20 or if they're 70, is try to find out what are their goals that they are trying to accomplish. And then my job is really to, as I tell them, to come to them with the non-emotional piece so that I am not emotionally tied to the money. I'm only looking at what they're trying to accomplish. And basically what I do is put together that plan for them to help them get from point A to point B. And some of the mistakes I see people doing is, and we do a very good job of it, if we're going to go on a vacation, we plan that vacation out. When it comes to our money, our financial life, sometimes we let it happen by accident or if it happens at all. And some of the things as we're younger is realizing that you will get old if you live long enough. And I tell the young people, what would the older you, maybe 20 years older, tell the younger you to do? And that older person would say, save, because you're going to probably live longer than you think you're going to live. And then 2, go and have fun. But like everything, have fun within limits. That doesn't mean getting paid on Friday and being broke on Saturday morning. It means planning a little bit for the future there. But the biggest one is people really not having a plan. My job is to help them put that plan together. My job is also to help guide them, direct them with the information.
Now let's talk about the plan for a minute, because the planning part of it, right, can be a challenge. Let's start with how much do you plan to save? What should the average person look to save of their income? I know some people say 10%, some say 5%. What do you tell a client when they come in, they got a salary, I don't know, pick a number, and what do you tell them?
Yeah, I try to start when all of us were younger, we just barely had enough money to do anything. But I tell them when they get a chance, start with that 5 to 10%. So that's gonna vary. So some people are gonna be making a little more at 20 or 30. And then each time they get a raise, crank up that saving by 1%. So if I got a 3% raise and I started at 10, I'm gonna go to 11. I'm gonna keep just cranking that up, and then let your money do its work. And the stock market, as we all know, the historical average, up, down, sideways, no matter what is done, is 9 to 10% return. So, and unfortunately, you asked the question, what do I see people doing? I see people sometimes being too conservative. They'll take their money down to the bank, they get 1%, and they gave up 8 or 9% over the long haul. As we get older, you get to my age, I want to start being a little more conservative again. So I don't want to be taking a lot of risk, but the average young person, 20s, 30s, even if the market corrects, the market has never lost money. Any 10-year period, you start wherever you want, go 10 years later, it's always made money. And what's going to happen each time, if I get that 10% return, I'm going to get another 10 on that bigger number. So money at 7% doubles every 10 years. Money at 10% doubles about every 7 years. So
yeah, it's interesting. I realized that for me, one of the things was I didn't know many old people who had money.
Right.
And so I didn't really fully understand what that meant. I didn't understand. Okay, so if you don't have money, you're not going to be able if you're not around people, and say it this way, if you're not around people that have money, it hurts you. I worked at a brokerage firm when I was in college called Cantor Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald. They're based in. Matter of fact, they lost a lot of people in the Trade Center collapse.
Right.
And they're based in New York and in LA. I worked in Beverly Hills because I was in college. I lived in LA. And I was a gopher, nothing impressive. No, let's not be impressed at all. I was the guy I took their money to the bank.
Right.
And I put their files with their statements for the millions of dollars in the back in those days when you put them in file cabinets. But I remember seeing how they made money, and they made money through, like you said, the dollar cost averaging, this consistently doing it over time, a little bit. Let me ask this. Okay, so you see people that make money is there some unique? Now I'm gonna get ethnic for a minute. What would be some obvious things that you think African Americans don't normally understand about money that maybe others do? What would be some unique things that you think?
Yeah. So the biggest one, and I can start with African Americans, but I can move to other groups just as quick. And it's understanding the equity market, stocks, bonds, understanding the bond market, understanding the dynamics of what propels that forward. So every time you and I buy an iPhone, or doesn't matter what the product we buy, we're driving the profits of that particular company up. So sometimes we're users, but we're not owners. And I try to get them to understand you want to own the things that you buy. So if you're going to go to McDonald's every day, think about as an owner, not just a consumer of that product.
So you're saying buy some McDonald's stock then?
Buy some McDonald's stock if that's the one that you like. And if you kind of look at it, there's two components to a stock. In most cases, there's the growth that comes with the stock itself, but then there's the dividends. So, McDonald's has a dividend of about 3% roughly. So if I did nothing, McDonald's just stayed flat, I'm gonna get a 3% return, 3% return.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I don't normally get. I'm like, we're not giving any stock advice here, people.
Right. Yes.
You just be clear. We're just talking about stuff. But in my history, I bought some, and I realized that my biggest challenge, and this is maybe something you talk to, is being consistent. I think one of the best things I've ever done regarding my finances is, okay, this is what percentage I'm going to save,
right,
and I'm consistent with it. And I mean, every week, every month, every pay period, every bonus. Talk about that for a minute. Is that a big problem you see? People come to you, they have a big dream, big plan, but they're not consistent.
Yeah. You mentioned it earlier, the dollar cost averaging. Set a goal and then leave it alone. Don't use it as a piggy bank. Every time you blow a tire out, you go take out of your future money, because what ends up happening, you're robbing tomorrow. My father used to call it want-itis. We don't need a lot of things. We want a lot of things. And if you can take that the same way we do tithes and offerings and lock it in and let it do its thing. And if we could just do that, it's sometimes tough and emergencies come up, but I try to get people on a dollar cost averaging. And if it's 50, then when I do those reviews, let's see if we can up it to 75. Can we up it to 100? And the power of that compounding really works. And the other thing you asked me, what are some of the things to understand the power of compound interest and compounding of money?
Well, let me do this before you go to compound interest. Well, I want you to talk about that, because interest itself, but I want you to explain dollar cost averaging. I didn't mention it. I didn't explain. What is dollar cost averaging?
Yeah. So dollar cost averaging is basically taking an investment. You can invest in whatever it is, and you have a consistent approach to say, I'm going to take this dollar amount and I'm going to put it into whatever the investment. It won't matter what the investment is. And so what ends up happening is, from month to month, when I do that, some months I'm going to buy at the high water mark. Some months I'm going to buy at a lower dollar mark. And what the dollar cost averaging says, by the time we get through averaging those months, no matter how many they are, I come up with some average down the road. That average will be bigger over time than the dollars I put in. And it's consistency.
So I give, and it goes up, it goes down, but then when you average it out, I end up ahead, because
that's right.
I took that dollar and it averages over time.
Wow, average it out.
Okay, talk about compound interest. What is that? Now I heard this years ago. A book, is a book with me. Sheila, you'll love this, right? It's a book long time ago by a guy named John Abassini.
Okay.
John Abassini. You remember that book? It's a book. It was called War on Debt.
Right.
And that's the first time I heard a conversation about compound interest. So help us understand how that works.
Yeah. So compound interest is if you and I'll take something as simple as a bank account. If I went down to the bank and put that dollar in, and the bank says we're going to pay me 2 or 3%. So what's going to end up happening, my dollar is going to, or let's take $100. my $100 is now $103. So what compound interest says is that I'm at some point I'm going to get not only the 3% that I'm getting each year, but I am also compounding the interest that I just got. So in the future, not only does my $100 go up by 3%, but the $3 I made on the 100 goes up. So it just keeps compounding itself. And that program works in reverse when it comes to debt. It's the reason a lot of people cannot get out of debt, because that is snowballing on them. So they owe $100, they have a 5% loan. So now all of a sudden I'm paying not only the interest on the 5, but I'm also paying interest on the 100, and it just keeps snowballing. And I tell people it does not make sense to invest in anything when the debt level or interest rate is higher than the return you can make on your money. Wow. And you see it with college loans is the big place you see it today. People in debt with college loans.
You know, it's interesting. I call them wicked loans because they're wicked. Right. And I mean, you can get $5,000 in a credit card, and if you never have, it can be years, and it ends up owing more. I'll tell you a big surprise. I bought a Generac. I'm not against the company. I like the company, good people. Okay, so let's get that straight. Because the storm came, right, and I was really surprised that when you buy the Generac, they give you an option. You can pay cash, or you can pay like 3 payments, right? Or thirdly, you can take 18 months and pay it, with no interest. And so I thought, okay, it's the same price. I'll take 18 months. So, but here's what's amazing: they make you get a credit card, right? And no reflection on the company. I'm just saying what they did, and then they give you the credit limit of the Generac. Right, and if you don't know what a Generac is, if you're watching, it's if your house goes out, if the power goes out, the generator comes. It's like a generator. It comes on. They call it Generac anyway. So the power it takes and keeps your house powered up until the power comes back on. Well, so anyway, so they give you a credit card, and then the credit card has a little statement. It's really amazing. And so as you pay it down, because you have 14 months or 18 months to pay it, so you count down, and there's this little line that says interest carried, and the interest carries. So they calculate the interest all the way through, and if you don't pay it off exactly on that date, that you get hit, bam, with all that interest. So I think it was down to now this is amazing. It was down to like $2,000, $3,000, right? Right. And I saw the interest that was being carried forward was $2,500. I thought, wait a minute, I've been paying it off, and how? And so imagine people, if they had a $10,000 balance because they didn't make payments over 18 months, they're probably carrying $6,000 or $7,000 of interest. Right. And by the time they get to the end of the deal, the 18 months, they're gonna still owe however many they still owe on the principal, plus that thousands of dollars in interest. That's right. It's going to come at one time at an evil interest rate of 20%. It's like it's like a wicked trap. I mean, I love the company. But I'm just saying it's really amazing how you can get trapped with compound interest.
Yeah, you're interesting. You bring up, and we're here in the state of Georgia, and most states are similar. The state of Georgia has no usury laws. What usury laws could do is they dictate the amount you can charge on a credit card or any interest rate for that matter. And that's why you'll see credit cards. A lot of people get trapped into 24, 30% interest rate on the credit card. And if you pay the minimum, you can't live long enough to ever pay it off, just because that is cranking, that compound interest is cranking it 25, 30% on the balance.
Well, let me jump in here and say, if you are a person who's got a question, bring Sheila in. I'm sure she's loaded with questions. She always is. She got things you want to know about. I do feel that I'll tell you down the road, I want to come back to this protect your money thing, insurance and all that good stuff. But what you got, bro? Anything online, or what you thought?
We do have a question online for Curtis, and one individual wants to know: in your business, do you assist with 403B and 401 plans, and is it wise to transfer them into an IRA?
Yeah. So yes. To answer the first part, for those watching, a 403B is the equivalent of a company retirement plan for non-profit entities, churches, hospitals, school systems. The 401k plan is one for-profit business. So they work very similar. There's a couple small differences between the two. The thing of transferring, and I'm making the assumption you're no longer at those prior places of work. Sometime moving into an IRA will give you more choices. The piece that you'll just have to watch is to make sure that you didn't pick up a lot more expenses versus if you left it at the 401k or the 403b. Those two plans, like say, they're tax deferred plans. And again, I'm making a global assumption, not knowing age, but it may and it may not. And that's where I would sit down with an advisor or someone at your local bank to see, does that make sense in your case? You do want to transfer it. You do not want to take a cash distribution and then roll it over, because the minute you take that cash distribution, you have 60 days to move it to a IRA, a qualified plan. If you miss it, as Dr. Temple said earlier, you end up with a new friend called the IRS. And the IRS says that's taxable income, whatever amount you took out, and you get a nice tax. If you're under 59 and a half, you also get hit with a 10% penalty. But again, I would sit down with someone that's looking, that understands those three products.
Let me tell you a scenario while I plug up here for a minute. Tell you a scenario. I found it fascinating, 401k plan, where you give and you pay the taxes when you take it out, right? And a Roth IRA, help me with this, you pay it on the way in. Is that correct?
That's right. You're using after-tax money to fund it, but then with certain conditions, it's tax-free later when you take it out.
You can put the same amount in each one, though. Is that correct?
You can put into, depending on age. So people who are under 50, this year's number is $7,500. For people 50 and over is $8,500 per year. The last question, the person with the 401k or the 403b, they could roll those over into an IRA or a Roth IRA. And IRA stands for Individual Retirement Arrangement, or a lot of people say account, but the official IRS definition is arrangement. So yeah, and the big difference is the last of the tax-free items that the IRS has not figured out how to tax yet, the Roth. They figured out how to tax it. They just haven't taxed it yet. And so what that means is people theoretically at retirement could have a bucket where they pay no taxes on that money coming out.
And that if you go ahead, I'm sorry. No, please go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to
say, how old do you have to be? What is the required age that you have to? Withdrawals are mandatory.
Yeah. So you have two things. If it's, and I'll start with the Roth, to take money out of a Roth IRA or a Roth plan, even at work. The requirement is you need to be at least 59 and a half and have been in the Roth for at least 5 years. So there's two pieces. Now, again, if I were, 50 years old, I've got to wait till 59 and a half, because that's the longer of the two that's there. On a regular IRA, after age 59 and a half, I avoid the early distribution penalty, and then I can theoretically take it out. On the flip side, the IRS says there is a requirement that the longest we're going to wait if you are not working is either age 73 or age 75. And the either or is because of age. Someone at my age would be they've got to start taking what I call required minimum distributions at age 73. For younger people, it's age 75.
So how much is that? How much do you have to take out? What's the required percentage?
It's a schedule is based on age. So each year after 73 or 75, there is a lifetime table that says you need to take out X. So someone 73 would have to look at their IRA balances, and they would end up dividing it by 26.5. So it works out the first year about 2% of whatever your balance works out to be. And each year that percentage will go up, and the table goes all the way up to age 110. The IRS says no matter what your balance was on 12/31, the next year by April 1st, you need to take that required minimum distribution, and then it jumps over to by the end of the year. So what will end up happening, those people who decide not to spend all their money, then the IRS is going to make you take money out, and they will be part of your legacy planning by default. So,
yeah.
Which brings us to the next question. Individual has here at 60 years of age and low overhead, like no mortgage, what is a safe, sustainable withdrawal rate for me to maintain my lifestyle for the next 30 years? So they plan on living at least to 90.
right.
And what percentage should I continue to save?
Yeah. So I'll tackle the first part on the distribution. The industry right now is saying a fairly safe, and again, all of my answers, you kind of got to look at some of the things behind the scenes, but at a high level, somewhere around 4%. The latest numbers say you could push that closer to 5%, but roughly 4%. And I'm assuming a mix of equity, stock, and bond of maybe 60-40, 6% equity, 40% bond. You should be pretty safe at 4%. You may be able to push that all the way up to 5%. If you are, the second part, that sounds like a person that is still working. So now it's a little bit of a catch, because I'm taking money out on one side of my qualified plans. I'm putting new money in. So it's a little bit the dog chasing his tail. I'm constantly jacking up my taxes. So what a person probably at 60 wants to think about is, can you convert some of those taxable accounts into Roth type tax-free accounts, just to give you a bucket that is not getting hit so hard with taxes. So, and again, like everything, is part of that planning process to look and say, what does your overall situation look like? You kind of sound like you've got most of your major expenses behind you, but you do have your friend, the IRS, that is looking for you at 73 or 75. So
we have lots more questions, Pastor. Okay. Keep going.
Keep going. Fire them away.
Okay. You mentioned buying stock. Can I buy stock without a broker? If so, how?
Yeah, so you can. There's quite a few different platforms out there. It just depends on how much of an expert, but everything from, and I'm not pushing any one group or portal, but there's Robinhood, there's E-Trade, there's quite a few different self-service. You could go directly to Vanguard for those do-it-yourselfers and go pick up. You can't pick up individual stock, but you can pick up what are called ETFs, exchange traded funds. And these are funds that feel like a mutual fund, but they trade all throughout the day. But yeah, you can go find them there. So, and as I tell people, the one thing your advisor brings to the table normally is no emotional tie to your money. So they can tend to objectively look at it. I would tell people, don't run after the latest craze of the week, whatever that happens to be, because at some point, what the professionals on Wall Street do is they set a target. When they get to that target, they either sell all of it or they start playing with the house money only. So just make sure you don't run after the latest craze of the week, whatever that happens to be.
Okay. So this one is a little related to trust. What's the benefit of moving your assets and real estates into a trust, or what's the risk rather?
Yeah. So first of all, with a trust, you're going to need an attorney to draw up those trust documents. But the big thing that trust versus a will. So a will is a transfer of property within a 12-month period. So if I died today, I only had a will. My will says give XYZ to whoever, and that must be completed within 12 months. My will is probated, meaning that it is filed at the county that I live in, down at the county courthouse. So theoretically, you could go down there the day after my wife's attorney files that, and could go and look and say, hey, look, Curtis had this, he had that. The trust is a couple things. One, legal protection is why a lot of people do trust. The other thing is privacy. So any of you could die with $1 billion with a trust. No one would ever know you have that. The other thing that people do as far as real estate, they put that in a real estate type trust so that they can protect it from liability and close it off from other assets that you may have. So in most states, your home comes under homestead exemption. So, but that trust will give you some privacy issues. It's not a big thing on taxes. It's really just the opposite if you put assets that are accumulating in value, because the trust tax rates are higher than the individual tax rates tend to be. So,
okay. Next question. Do you personally utilize and or recommend whole life insurance?
Great question. Whole life, I'm going to take a step back. There's three primarily types of insurance. There's term coverage. Term does just what it sounds like. It's going to cover you for a term of time. Tends to be the least expensive, but it also tends to be the one that I can get the most coverage. You know, when I was 25 years old, if I reached into my pocket and I found $1, I sometimes thought I had someone else's pants on. But so what that term allowed me to do was I could buy as much coverage as I need or could afford at that time. The next one before I get to whole life is something called universal life. Universal life works similar to whole life in that I have a coverage component. I have a cash accumulation component. And the difference between universal life and whole life, universal life has a rate of return that is fluctuating around. It could be a set amount. It could be higher. Whole life is one that predetermined. I buy a policy at 25. I know exactly what it's going to cost me. I know exactly what it's going to grow to. I could theoretically tell you at 100. Younger people, if they can afford it, I want them to accumulate assets. I want them to do just like major corporations do. They grow equity. So that's the beauty of whole life. And again, I'm assuming that cost is not an issue, because down the road, I want another bucket that has some type of value. So again, like all of my questions, it will depend on the person, what they can afford and what they can't.
So are you saying you recommend whole life then?
I recommend whole life for the right person. So again, someone my age, the premium is too huge to make it worthwhile. And again, remember the concept of insurance is to provide a death benefit, not to become an investment. So, but if I'm young enough, if I'm 20, I can sometimes get both. At my age, I can't put enough in it for the investment part to grow enough.
So a young person is at 25, 30 years old. They're stepping in their career. You'd recommend whole life and term? I would
recommend if the budget can handle it, I would go to the side that can build some equity. If I need a lot of coverage, I may do a combination. I may have something that builds cash, something that gives me a lot of coverage. So, and again, like all these questions, you want to sit down with someone that can look at your overall situation, because what I'm doing here is giving you kind of a blanket explanation, and that all 20-year-olds won't look alike, and all 70-year-olds won't look alike either. So
I'm gonna get the rest of the questions, Sheila, but I'm gonna push this for a minute. I thought I'm a big fan of term insurance, right? Because of my life and because of what it's done for me in terms of, you got younger kids, you can get more insurance, you can protect your family. And so if you have $100,000 income, or $60,000 income, making anybody nervous. You have $60,000 income, and you're trying to protect your family, and you said in the stock market you're gonna make 9-10%. So you get $600,000. That's how I used to calculate it, $600,000 worth of insurance, and hope to get 8 to 9, 10% on your money, so you can replace your salary, right? But what's interesting is as you get older, term becomes untenable. You can't afford it. So if you only have term and you wait until you get to be 60 years old, then it runs out, and it is a term, the end of the runway. Right. So you're saying, this is fascinating to me. You're saying a younger person that can afford the money budget, you would have told them to get whole life, and term, not just all term.
That's right. So what happens to all of us with younger families? We need a lot of coverage. So at some point, we're going to get to the point where the problem with term is, one, the term does run out at some point in the future. So when that term runs out, I've got two choices. I really have three choices. I can decide I don't need any more coverage. I can try to go find a new term policy, or I, try to go find something maybe on the more permanent side. So, and the beauty of whole life and universal life is I don't have that term of time ticking away on me. And again, the universal life does have an option, normally up to age 60 or so, where I can convert it to a permanent plan. Because the big thing that most of us will run into is not that we can't afford the whole life later, we can't qualify for it later. We've got high blood pressure. We may have, some heart diseases that come up. We have other issues that we come up with. So,
and see,
Go ahead.
That's powerful. Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sheila.
No, I was going to say, which brings me to another question. Is you see, let's just say television commercials that they'll insure you at any age with no background check or whatever, and for $29 a month. Right. I mean, that number's just kind of for the example. How can they do that, or is that?
So beyond doing what I'm doing, my degree in college was in insurance, and is what I have a specialization in. The concept of insurance is the law of large numbers. So if I talk with 1,000 people, there are going to be some healthy ones in the group, some unhealthy ones in the group. So what you see on TV, these guaranteed issued policies, a couple things you have to keep in mind. It's not going to be a lot of coverage, maybe 5, 10, 15,000 of coverage at the most. And what they know is that all of those people are not going to die tomorrow. Some of them are going to make it to 80, 90. A few of them are going to make it to 100. And so the whole concept, the old bell curve that we all remember from school, says the majority of the people are in the middle of that bell curve, and somebody's way over here at 100. So I just have the father of a client of mine. Her dad was 103 years old when he just passed away just a couple months ago. So, but yeah, they can do it because what they're doing is they're insuring thousands and thousands of people. And what they know is two things. One, they're all not going to die at the same time. But two, they're all not going to continue to pay the premium. So, and when you don't pay the premium, that was free money to that insurance company.
And what's amazing is, this I checked on that one time, is you get $5,000,
right.
10,000, 15,000. That's enough to bury you.
Right. That's
about all. Maybe it's not like some major thing, Right. How many more questions do we have, Ms. Bishop?
A couple more great questions here. Could you please explain the rule of 55 and how it affects the 10% penalty for early withdrawal?
Yeah, so there's a rule of 55. So there's remember that 59.5 I talked about earlier, that early distribution penalty. If you are working with the company with your retirement plan, you have a retirement plan at work, then 59 and a half becomes 55. So meaning I could, if I worked for a company that had a 401k plan, I could take out money at age 55 without that penalty. But I've got to take it from the 401k or 403b, and there's no penalty. For everybody else that is not in a company retirement plan, that early distribution penalty, you've got to make it to at least 59 and a half. Don't ask me why there was a half, but at the time that they came up with it, back in about 1965, they came up with 59 and a half. And what it avoids is early distribution penalty. Not that everybody will ever be on jeopardy, but the reason for 401ks and 403bs were not for us to save more money. It was a problem that the government had when President Carter was in office, and they came to him and said, we are going to run out of tax money at some point in the future. Now, 401ks are fairly new. They've only been around since the early 70s. And so when Reagan came into office is when the 401k came in, and was originally knowing that we would save all this pre-tax money, get the tax deduction up front, and then as we start taking it out at 73 or 75, we get to pay income tax on that money. So it was really a company. It was a government piece to help tax revenue in the future.
Let me jump in before you get to that last question, Sheila. What some of you
it's two more now.
Listen to this money talk, and if you don't have any money, it's okay. At least you can dream, right? This is where you learn how to what to do when you get money. So go ahead, you got two more sub questions, Sheila. What you
got? What are some good life insurance companies?
So the best way of answering that, there's about 18,000 life insurance companies. So go out to a site called AM Best rates insurance companies. So of course, all of the big ones that you've all heard of, they're all good. And as you go out to AM Best, you want to look for A or A plus rated insurance companies. And what that A or A plus says is that company has the financial assets to pay claims in the future. And the insurance companies are the best regulated industry in the country right now. They're the only industry that came through the Great Depression in 1929 and came out the back end of it. They're the only industry because they're required to have so much in reserves around for claims to pay out. But go to AM Best. We've all got our favorites that are out there, but AM Best will kind of narrow that top group down for you.
I love the way you answered that. That's just so smart. I love it. Okay, so A as an apple, M as in man, best, right?
AM Best.
A as an apple, M as in man, AM Best.
Yes.
Insurance. Okay. Well, what's the next question, Sheila?
If you have a 401k with a former employer, do you recommend moving it into another investment vehicle, or would it be beneficial to move it?
Yeah. So with a 401k with a prior company, you have a couple choices. If your balance is more than $5,000, you can leave it at the prior employer. The second choice is you can, if your new employer, if you are working at a new place with a 401k or a retirement plan, you can move it into that new retirement plan. The third choice is, there's really two more choices. One, you can move it into an IRA, kind of one of those earlier questions we had. The last choice, which is not one I would ever recommend, you can cash it out. So keep in mind, if you cash it out, we've got that 10% penalty, that federal income tax that you could get hit with. Some of the reasons you might want to move it to a new employer, there may be some investment choices. You go, hey, that's a great investment choice. I want to use that one. You might move it into an IRA because some of you asked about stock and things that sort. You may move it into an IRA so you can pick up an individual or a group of stock.
Okay.
Is there another question? Are we there? Okay.
Well, there's a basic comment. My parents had a term policy and they both outlived their policies. And I did have a question from the book regarding annuities, and it's under the section, "You're not a good insurance agent." That's just a chapter there. I'm not talking about you. I know you got some background in that. But it says, since many people are fearful of running out of money before they pass on, there's one product they should definitely look into, and these products are called income annuities or simple annuities. Can you speak generally to annuities and what they are and what your thoughts are?
So the word annuity means a series of payments. So that's what the concept means. So the insurance companies and annuities have been around since the 1700s. They're not a new thing, but the annuity, you hand the insurance company a sum of money, and what their promise back to you is that we will send you X number of dollars a year for the rest of your life. And the only thing I would say is, you're looking at annuities, be careful, because the rest of your life says just that, the rest of your life. So if I live another 100 years, the insurance company sends me money. If I live another month, they sent me money for another month. So you have to be careful, but a nice way of supplementing for those who don't have pensions. That might be a way that you take part of your money and put it into something. So I have a guarantee. Social Security is a form of an annuity. It sends you money every month. So, and for whatever period of time that you will live. So.
May I testify? But they want their interest, though. You got to pay them.
That's right.
You got to pay it. You know, I want to just say, for me, I think it's interesting, as a person who plans to work for, I probably want to stop working the day before I die. I like working. I mean, I really do. I mean,
he talks about that in the book too, Pastor Reed.
Right.
Yeah, of course he does. I mean, I have a staff person today. We had a conversation. She's 87 and still works for me. It's amazing. I thought, you're my, I hollered at her today. I said, you're my inspiration. You inspire me. I think you have to evolve. I don't know that, you know, the same role I play today is the role I'll be playing, you know, by the time I'm 87.
Right.
But for people who keep working, this is what I find, and I want you to comment on this. I find it fascinating. So you save money in your 401k, right? And then you start drawing it out, right? You know, it piles on top of your income and can become painful. That's why I asked the question about the IRA part of it. Because the assumption, I assume, when you save money in the 401k or IRA, you assume you're going to have less of an income. So it becomes your income or supplemental income, but you won't be still working.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So it almost, I had a friend of mine tell me the other day, he said, I have a good chunk of money, but I'll never be able to tap into it. He said, because if I do, and I'm still a high income earner, he said, I just all go to taxes. I won't be able to, you know, to enjoy it. What do you think about that?
Yeah. So, true. If you leave it in that pre-tax vehicle, then what I've got is this thing that really never ends. Is I've got to take out and pay taxes. As I sit down with clients, we will look at some of those, taking some of those pre-tax dollars, converting them to a Roth, so that I now have some bucket that I'm not paying taxes on forever and ever and ever. So, but the baby boomers are people born between 1946 and roughly 1963. We were the first generation to be 401ks, and for the most part, pensions also. So we've accumulated a lot. We tend to be savers, not spenders, and that's a little bit of a problem. So I like, one of the things the book says is go and enjoy the money with those people you love while you're around to see the joy that you brought them. So, because as I said, when you go to the funeral, you go to the cemetery, I can guarantee you there will not be a Brinks truck following you to the cemetery. So, and if it is, that you won't be in the ground long.
Sheila, you got one question. We're about out of time.
Yeah, I was going to ask him, because you mentioned that about retirement, and I know one of the books that we read with Daniel Rabbi Lopin said never retire. What are your general thoughts on that, Curtis?
Yeah. So again, you have to almost look at the age group. So I'm a baby boomer. They say baby boomers will never retire. We may move from what we were doing as a primary job, but we'll move to something else because we want to stay active. That's one of the things our parents gave us. Our parents gave us this responsibility factor. So,
Right.
And again, one of the biggest things I have to do with primarily the baby boomer group is give them permission to go have fun. And it seemed like they would want to go do it, but they think they're going to run out of money. Women more than men. Women. One of the insurance companies did a survey about 10 years ago. It's called the bag lady study, and it had a more official sounding term. But what it said was women, no matter how much they have, feel that they will not have enough and will be homeless one day. So if it's hundreds of thousands or millions, men are a little better, but not a lot better. The next generation behind us, Generation X and the millennials, they have flipped the other way. They said, I'm going to enjoy life. I'll worry about the money later. Now they can say that because they're going to inherit trillions of dollars from the baby boomers. So,
wow, that's powerful.
That's amazing.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Now, what are factors that an individual should take into consideration with getting their Social Security at 67 versus 70?
Yeah, so longevity is the biggest one. So if your parents lived a long time, you got one of the three components that says you will probably live a long time. The other two are environment and eating habits and health are the other two. But if you have a longevity, especially women, because women are going to outlive men by 5 to 6 years. So two people the same age. And Social Security maxes out at 70. You can't get any more out of it. So waiting to 71 doesn't do you any good. 67 for most people is full retirement age. So that's when it starts. But if I wait till 70, I got a 8% increase each of those years I waited. 67 to 68 to 69 to 70. So I ended up 8%, another 8%, another 8%. So after 70, it doesn't matter. You don't get any more increases. Only thing you'll get is cost of living changes that may be announced from year to year. But again, longevity. I'm an example of someone, both parents died pretty young. So one of those three components I'm missing. So it says I may not be a person that lives to 90 or 100. Now I've done a pretty good job on the other two, but won't know until I know,
it's funny, but I know you work out a lot. I do. I know. He's a gym rat. He really is.
Okay.
He is now. He's a gym rat.
Yeah.
He said one of the best things I've ever heard said. It is the quote of a lifetime. He said, I've known many black men, but I've never known many heavy. I'll change the word.
That's right. Yeah. There's a lot of old men, but very few overweight old men. And if you look at anybody that's older, especially men, you'll see a lot of slender men that are 80, 90. The gentleman I spoke to that just died at 103. I mean, didn't look like he had an ounce of fat on him any place at all. So, and that's
wow. And
I'll give you one that if your group wants to read it on their own, it's called Outlive. It's by a guy named Peter Attu, and he talks about the 4 horsemen. The 4 horsemen are cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and heart disease. And those are the things that will tend to shorten our life or take us out.
And what was the last name you said? Peter who?
It's Attia.
Oh, okay.
I got it right, Sheila.
Yeah, I know.
I already know.
Yeah.
I already started reading it. It's a great book. It really is.
Yeah. Now tell everybody, enjoy life. Money's for enjoyment. It's not to see who can hoard the biggest stack of it. And then take care of yourself so that you are healthy enough to enjoy it and do the things that you've always wanted to do, whatever that happens to be. So
I promise this will be my last one, Pastor Rick. Can you give any insight into the results of the bag lady study? Because I think I'm one. That was just amazing.
Lot of women are. So was again in the insurance industry, working with agents and advisors to say that the role of the advisor is to help those people, showing them the numbers that you are in better shape than you think. Now you don't make them just totally wake up one day and say, "Oh, I'm okay. I won't worry about it." But it's putting them at ease with the process, with the knowledge that backs up that you're gonna be okay. And it's some of the things we talked about earlier, those distribution rates to show a person taking money out at 3-4%, you almost can't outlive your money. So and just showing them those things. But it's really a little bit of counseling. That's what the two of you do. You counsel people, and it's a slow process. And part of that is men are transaction driven, women are relationship driven. So, and again, our minds, our brains are wired a little different. But it's really sitting down. And what I do is I don't try to sell people things. I don't try to show them they need something they don't need. I show them from a logical point of view, here's what your picture will look like in the future based on what you're doing or say you want to do between now and then. So.
And my time is up, and we're over 5 minutes. But I think did we go to 8:15? Or we go to 8 o'clock.
8:15. 8:15.
Oh, we go 8:15.
Yeah, it's 8:15. So you have 7 minutes.
All right.
Let me say this. Just as a point of testimony, I find it to be interesting that saving health can really be as good as saving money or better, and creating options for yourself where you have things you can do as you get older. Because what I see a lot of people do is they retire, but they don't retire along the way. I have a retire along the way policy. We just came off a cruise of 7 days. I got a couple more planned this year, a couple of days, here and there. We do a lot of getting away and a lot of resting during the week. I'm a big Sabbath every week person. So, it's not like working hard every day. It's working hard 4 or 5 days and then having a day off or 2 days off every week and sleeping in, all those simple things that you can do that can give you a quality of life. I think that your presentation helped me understand and see when I look at you, because I tell you, this guy works out. He works out a lot. He's always in the gym, and to be able to still be working and contributing, it inspires me. You're like people like you're a hero. So I want to bring you back, and if you come back sometime, we can talk more. And hundreds of people watch this, and we're going to make sure more people get a chance to see it. I think your questions were great today. And did we get everybody's question that wanted to ask a question? Are we done? Was everybody?
Yes, we have just a lot of thank yous and appreciate you. You're amazing. God bless you. All wonderful stuff.
Yes.
We're going to come back. I want to mention the book that we're going to read next, okay? Because we have a book that we read. And Brother Curtis, thank you again for being with us today. We really appreciate your presence. It means a lot. But let me just introduce the next book, which I think is interesting. Sheila Bishop, I love it. It really talks about, I'm going to talk about church and money. And it's a book. Did you write that? Put it up, Brian, so they can see the book.
He has it up.
There you go. Rich Church, Poor Church, Keys to Effective Financial Ministry. I think that as a pastor, one of the things is the hardest thing to talk about in church is money. I don't think churches are good at talking about it. I think they're terrible. As a matter of fact, I think they're really bad. Because then we started off with in our prosperity circle talking about church and money, but I want to use this book as a launching pad for our discussion because I really believe it kind of forces you down this road of dealing with what the Bible says about money, the biblical interpretation for money, what it all means, and how this works. If you get money right in church, and he talks about why some churches are struggling, why some pastors struggle with money, why some believers struggle with money, and you can bring me back, Brad, for a minute. Why some churches struggle, why it's hard, and it is, let me say from a pastor standpoint, it is horrifically hard emotionally because you really feel like you don't want to abuse anybody, you feel like you don't want to cause anybody to be offended, and so what you end up doing, and this is what I think the trick of the devil is, he makes you so paranoid about money that you can't ask for money. you're apologetic when you have money, and so you get hit on both sides. You get hit when you're broke, and you get hit when you get some money. So it's like being hit on both sides of your head. And so you don't really have or ever develop a financial strategy for church, for money, for building wealth. So we'll talk more about that in our next time together, which will be when, Ms. Bishop? When are we coming back together?
It will be April. Not April. I apologize. It's the March the 11th.
March the 11th. We'll be back, and we'll tell you more.
I got more. Basically 2 weeks. Yeah.
2 weeks. And I have another guest.
What's 3? Yeah, it'll be 3 weeks by the time we get back.
We have a banker person. You know, them bankers, get your money. We're going to talk to a banker next time. And you're going to be impressed. Real knowledgeable, energetic. You'll love some of the comments that you're going to hear. And I'm looking forward to that conversation about banking, because all of us, loans, car loans. And he mentioned bankers today. He said something nice about a banker. I thought it was great. I thought, financial advisor who's guiding the bank people. And so great.
But we'll be back on our regular second Wednesday of the month schedule.
Good. Second Wednesday. Brother Curtis, are you still around? Or did he leave yet? Is he still with us?
I'm still here. Yes, sir.
Yeah. You saw I gave you a compliment of how you were nice to bankers.
There you go. Well, thank you. Like I say, I don't want to get beat up tomorrow by the bankers. So
yeah. But since our next conversation is going to be about churches and loans and banks and all that kind of, and I'm going to mention church money and all that. Is it, when you look at churches and money, I think that they're just not good places. We got 3 minutes here to talk about money. All they do is ask for money. You agree with that? How do you view that comment?
Yeah. So and some of that is, as you know, pastors, some of the churches taught people that money is the root of all evil. Now the Bible doesn't say it in quite that way. And then and it
says the love of money, and
that's right.
When it becomes the word love that's used there is in the Greek means it becomes your best friend.
That's right. Right. Yeah.
Go ahead.
But yeah, like I say, I think that I tell clients, I said that we cannot help others until we have helped ourselves. So if we want to give or create legacy, we've got to be solid, and some of that training and education starts with our people to understand all of those things. And sometimes we had a question on Social Security. A lot of people take Social Security at 62. Well, you just took a 32% reduction in what you could have gotten by taking it early. So again, some will need it, some don't.
The reason we're doing this, we used to call it the Prosperity Team. Now it's called the Prosperity Circle. I borrowed that from a friend of mine who changed the name, and I loved it, so I snatched it. Paul Little up in Macon did that. He changed the name, so I'm gonna give him credit one time. This is it. But one of the things that I think is so sad, in my view, our definition of finances, our vision for money is too low. Mm-hmm. For example, the average, I think, is 250,000 or so, and for an African American, one said 300,000. What's the average retirement in a 401k? Is it?
If I took the average, which includes all people, your 300,000 is about right. If I take African Americans, I almost have to cut that number in half.
150,000.
Yeah,
that's and so if you start thinking 10% of that is what 14,000 a year that you have to live off, and that's at 10%, and that's too high because you've been saying it should draw down at 4%.
That's right.
That's why
you'll exhaust it pretty quick. See, I think this is, one guy said this to me. He said, and I'm going to say this only to put it in context because I think he's a great friend. He said, "Are you still there? All my people still there? Or did we all leave? Are we still here?"
You're still there. Looks like it.
Are you still there, my brother Curtis?
I'm still here. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
I lost my visual there, Brian, but that's okay. The bottom line is that there we go. He said this. He said, if you want to do big kingdom work, you have to have big kingdom money.
That's right.
And that's what I see in the average church. Only 9% of businesses get beyond $1 million a year. Only 3 to 4%, I understand, get beyond 3 million a year.
Right.
3 to 4. Are you familiar with those kind of numbers or no?
I'm familiar with the numbers, but then there's the piece of that money moving forward. So the problem with all of the dollars, it doesn't ever get to the next generation, the kids and the grandkids. Sometimes it stops at the original owner. And that's where, as you know, our Jewish brothers and sisters, they rotate that dollar over and over and over again. So and it's not because we don't have the money, it's because we don't have the knowledge. And that's what I like about your sessions. We're providing knowledge. Then people can go make the decision that they want to go make, good or bad, but they've got the knowledge to go make that decision.
I think you have to put things, and I learned that with my kids, put it in the atmosphere.
Right.
You know, taking them on a trip, giving them exposure to money, helping them see. I'll say this last example. When I used to travel and people would give me an honorarium, I would always let my kids see what they gave me so they could understand money and see it. And Christina, with her wonderful self, would look at people and she said, "That's a cheap church, Daddy." Yes, she did. She said, "Boy, they don't believe." She said, "They don't believe in sewing, do they?"
Right.
She was really young, but the goal was to put it in their mind about money. I've got to go. My time is up. Hey, guys, thank you for being with us tonight. Thank you for being on the Prosperity Team. Those of you that are watching this on demand, remember, Overcoming by Faith Ministries loves having you around us. We meet every first, second, and third Sunday right here in Savannah, Georgia. You can watch us on live or you can watch us on demand. And it's a wonderful church. And I'm the pastor, Pastor Ricky Temple. Google our church. Download the Overcoming by Faith Ministries app. Wow, that's an amazing tool because thousands have it. Overcoming by Faith Ministries app. You can see all the sermons. You can keep up what we're doing. But remember, we appreciate it. And remember, God wants you to prosper and be in health. So be blessed. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye. Sheila, thank you for your time. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Brother Curtis. Got more coming up next time. We'll see you back here on, remember, I think it's March the 11th. Is that right, Ms. Bishop? Second? We're going back to the second
Wednesday. It'll be March the 11th. Yes.
We'll see you then. Bye-bye. Be blessed. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. That's a Georgia term, y'all.